What if playing the harp felt easier, the way you thought it would be, not because you practiced more, but because you finally understood what was getting in your way? I'm Anne Sullivan, and welcome to Practicing Harp Happiness. Here, we tackle the real challenges harpists struggle with: the sticky passages, the tricky fingerings, prepping for performance, and all the ingredients that go into making music sound the way you want it to. I've studied with world-class harpists, taught at a top conservatory for 20 years, and I love playing the harp. But what I love just as much is breaking down the real challenges harpists face and turning them into clear step-by-step solutions, the same ones I teach my students and use myself. So if you're ready to play the music you love with more confidence, clarity, and joy, you're in the right place. So let's get started. Welcome to the show. Okay, I talk about harp happiness a lot. Really a lot. That's because playing the harp has always brought me happiness. Now, sure, playing the harp is hard work sometimes, and I've had my share of frustration too, but for me, the challenges are outweighed by the joy every time. It's the joy that keeps me going, and I hope that your own harp happiness sustains and inspires you too. I mention this right now because I have a special guest on today's show, and she positively radiates harp happiness. Her name is Alexandra Chang, and if you haven't heard of her already, just listening to her talk about her love of music and the harp is going to make you fall in love with her. Alex is an electric acoustic harpist and composer, and as you will hear, much of her performing is collaborative improvisation, particularly with the Rock City Falls Trio, a cross-genre ensemble. She recently completed a jazz and sonic music residency at the Banff Centre for Arts and Creativity for performance and composition, and premiered the work A Shared Woven Melody at that concert as part of their 2024 Gather, Listen, Hear Summer Arts Festival. She was awarded the 2025 Art Connects Artist Grant. Art Connects is supported in part by the National Endowment for the Arts and New York State. She teaches at Rutgers University as an associate professor of practice at the Arts, Culture, and Media Department. And she's also the co-director of Improv Spaces and runs the Improv Spaces Music Festival, which is based in upstate New York, with creative partner percussionist Adam Forman. But before I play our conversation for you, I want to preview 3 things she mentions that give a more complete picture of her musicianship than just the raw facts from her bio. First, she practices the pedal harp every day. Second, she always has music by Bach on her music stand. And third, she's only been playing the harp for 6 years. Yep, I couldn't believe it either. Now, I will play a clip from one of the selections on her album at the end of our conversation, but I want you to hear from her first. So without any more delay, here is my conversation with harpist Alexandra Chang. Welcome, Alex. I am so excited to talk to you because this is something I don't do on the podcast a whole lot. As my listeners know, it's a lot of me talking, and I'm so excited to be able to talk to somebody else, and especially to somebody doing things as exciting as the things that you're doing. But first, tell us a little bit about the album Abandon, which just was released.
Yes, I'm so excited about it because it's my first solo album. So I learned a lot going through making it. But the album itself is called Abandon because it's a love story, and it goes through the landscape of love, which is, the abandonment, like the wild abandon of love, but then also like the loneliness of love. So it's dual-sided in terms of that term. But for me, it's not just about like the up and down, but really kind of traveling through. And so the album itself mimics improvisation because I have a theme or a few themes that kind of go in and out. So it's played like in different versions, but it wants to kind of like meander, go backwards and come back forward. And so it plays around with the form of improvisation, but then also like our lived lives.
Well, I really enjoyed listening to the tracks from the album, and I listened to it beginning to end, and I did get the sort of, and this is a weird term to apply to something that's so improvisational, but that sort of through composed idea, the idea that I was on a journey and exploring different things, and it wasn't a journey that took me back to where I started. That was sort of the sense that I got listening to it, and I was really intrigued by that. So, how did you come to the idea for an album like this?
I guess it's just, what comes out of you. Well, things came out for different reasons. For example, Rain was actually a third movement of a larger water suite, which I do a lot of work in relation to climate change and mostly with my trio, the Rock City Falls trio. And so we pair a lot with different artists and it's interdisciplinary. So it's like projection, collage, people sampling music or live painting. And so this was a specific one with Mike Miyahara. He's known as Mike Ming, and so he was a graffiti artist as well,
Mhm.
and he's a surfer, but he has this close relationship to water. But we were really thinking about like the different relationships we have to water. Some like fearful, some like that we have to protect it. And rain was kind of like a mix of many different emotions and ideas of water because we were going through flooding in our area in upstate New York and elsewhere in the U.S. and elsewhere. But like thinking about those kind of anxieties that we have, just like underlining things.
Mhm.
But then also for me, for this particular album, taking it and thinking about it in terms of relations and like your emotional feeling in terms of rain, which could also vary in different ways. So that's how, for example, like Rain came about,
Yeah.
and the way that it changes throughout the album. But other songs really just came out because of like thinking about trajectories of love and relationships with people, like long-term relationships and how they change and shift, how they can become bittersweet, but then also what you learn coming out of it. So hopefully like it feels not like devastating at the end when it's about there's a song called Leaving, but it's not about like, oh, I'm being left, but it's more like leaving and transitioning out of a stage in your life.
Yeah, no, I didn't feel like any of the of your music was causing me anxiety or grief. I
Good.
didn't feel like any of that. It was really lovely to listen to.
Oh, thank
But
you.
I have to confess, and I am very intrigued by the way you got to the place you are now. You always make reference to your classical training, but that's not something that you emphasize because it's not the direction that your music has taken you. And sort of I'm very interested, and I think other people will be too, in how you got from, yeah, I'm taking harp lessons to where you are now.
I guess it's like a mix of different things. I mean,
Mhm.
I just have to say also a shout out to my teacher, Elizabeth Huntley, because she really, you know, she gave me the gift of learning how to play the harp. And like, it was very open when I would tell her about things like, oh, I'm doing improv. She's like, great, So like having like somebody like that was amazing. But also, I think the moment that I really started improving was when I got a small harp because really love playing harp, right? Like all of us. And so I travel a lot back and forth. Like I live both in upstate New York as well as in Newark because I teach at Rutgers. And so I go back and forth so much that I always have to have a harp. And it's hard to bring a harp that's large. So I got one of those smaller 26 string, actually a harpsichord harp, which a lot of
Okay.
people use, and they're not
Yeah.
very expensive and they're really accessible, but it's electrified. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I could plug this into like guitar pedals. And then once I did that, it was like endless. It was like, oh my God. And that's when I started improv. It just like lent itself to that, just experimenting with sounds. And I was playing at a church and they let me do improv, which was great because when you're doing the offering thing and it cuts off at a certain time, but I could just improv and stop whenever I needed to during
Yeah.
those things for the church harpists out there. And they were really open about that. Like I was like, it's great. It sounds like astral, like electric. And but they actually really liked it. So I kind of started improvising in the church, and then I paired off with a performance artist, and then just actually started 4 months later. I found the percussionist. We met at Saratoga Arts, where I play a lot, and we just started playing from there as like a duo and then a trio. But yeah, it kind of like really started because of the freedom of being able to experiment, I think, with the electric harp. And then also I have this deep love of jazz that goes like since I was a kid, because like my dad was a swinger, like he did swing dancing. So he has this
Oh, wow.
huge LP collection. And he's like, really careful about his hi-fi setup. And like, I always wondered why our sound system always sounded better like from the 90s than like presently. I'm like, how can that be? That's old technology, but like, he really had his system, like the Onkyo system with like Fisher speakers and stuff and JVC. It was just a really good setup.
Well,
Uh,
isn't that funny? But sound is so important, isn't it?
mhm.
I mean, we think about it with our instrument, but yet, the electronic sound and the different ways in which we hear sound also equally important.
Yeah, definitely. And like that I know like it kind of segs into the idea of improvisation because um listening is so important for it. And just like I think that's like something that, struck me was just like how much you have to like pay attention to others and what's around you for improvisation to like feel it and know when you come in or where you have to pull back or yes, like feeling the room and also the people you're playing with.
I love that. And I want to dig into the whole idea of improv and collaboration. But I'm wondering if, thinking about my own students who are less than confident about starting to improvise, and I'm thinking that improvisation for me comes down to one question. And you just actually said that same thing, which is, I just made a note here while we were talking. And the question is, what if? Well, what if you plugged in your harp to guitar pedals, right? And I think improvisation is a what if question. And it requires you to be free enough to experiment without self-criticism. And if you're going to start improv from that, then the world becomes open. But you just were talking about improving in collaboration, and that's a different level, isn't it? Could you talk to that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's like interrelated too, because like when I'm collaborating, we're also experimenting a lot of the time. And so I think with collaborating, like for me, I really opened up during collaboration because you're working with people and hopefully like people that are really great and that inspire you. So it'll push you to go somewhere else. Like I know my percussionist that I play with a lot is Adam Forman, and he's just really good. But when he plays something, like I'll play something I never dreamt that I would play before because he's playing a certain thing in a certain way. So I think the collaborative aspect definitely pushes you. And you hear things that you've never heard before, even experienced before. But then also, like with the ensemble, I also co-organize with Adam this larger a nonprofit organization, and we have this like larger ensemble there called Improv Spaces Ensemble, and it has all sorts of instrumentation, like, and most people play like 3 or 4 different instruments, so we never know what's going to happen. But we do different things, like we'll test things out. Maybe somebody has a theme for improvisation they want to test out, or a composition for improvisation, or it might be open, or we'll think about something like, let's think about silence or restraint, because that's really hard when you love to play
Right.
lots of notes. Or for example, like different ways to conduct for improvisation. So there's ways that we're like testing things out, like thinking about how we do improvisation. And then I think the space is very open and all the people are very open too. And that's really important. And they respect each other in terms of like people, but also playing, which is important. So I think it's like a mix of different things. And like if you're nervous about going to an improv with many people, like you could just improv with one of your friends first, right? Like, and just test it out. And I'm always really like, as somebody that loves improvisation, I love it when somebody tries it the first time because like usually you see that feeling of freedom that they have. And it's exciting. I've had students just say like, oh, I never did this before. And I didn't know that, it could be so like easy for me to do this. So should give it a go and not be afraid. And I know it's easy to say that and it's harder to do it. And maybe it's harder if you're doing a performance or something and you're going up to an open mic kind of situation, which there's like a jam. But people are open. And I think, if you're trained classically, I think it's a real bonus because like there's that intensity of training, but then it becomes like part of you. So no matter where you're going into something, like you have it in your fingers. It's like memorized in your body. So I think that's how like sometimes, I mean, I don't people say like, oh, how do you improvise? It just comes out. Like I know that people say like do this progression or whatever, and I could say it afterwards, but like when I'm playing it, I'm not going like, oh, I want to do a 1 4 5 or whatever. It just kind of comes out. So I think it's from the practice of training, hearing things and things like that.
I totally agree with you. And where I try to help my own students with this is to say, first of all, there's nothing wrong. I mean, improvisation, there is no wrong. You might find ideas, especially as you're collaborating, and you can tell me if this is your experience, that work better or don't work quite so well. You might think, oh, well, gosh, that wasn't quite where I meant to go. But the thing is that your fingers, because of your training, your fingers have a vocabulary. And if you just let them do what they know how to do, that's a great place to start, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Like I think that's definitely true. And then also just like if you're listening to music too, or you know like a repertoire of music, like you have like sounds in your head. So like so
Yeah.
that really helps too. And then I think like in terms of like, oh, I played the wrong note. I mean, there is of course that whole you know, in jazz, like the whole Miles Davis, like you never can like make a mistake. But then also like thinking about how you can make something intentional, like seemingly intentional, like when you
Yeah.
go for another note, like maybe repeat it or like maybe there's like you do like a half step down, you didn't want to do that, but then go somewhere else and do a half step down and then make it a pattern or something. So there's ways in which you might be able to like incorporate it or play off of that. And maybe that change actually made your whatever you were doing more interesting than it would have been before. So you never know. Yeah.
And you're really talking about sort of two different levels because at the first level, you're just letting stuff come out. And you made the point, which I think is so important a second ago, when you said, this isn't about planning. I'm going to play the 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 5. This is about letting that come out. You may be able to analyze it later if
Yeah.
that was what you wanted to do, but it's not about planning it that way. That's not the whole soul of improvisation, and it's not where the freedom lies, right? So that's kind of one level. But I think there's another level too that is just giving yourself permission to just play the what if game and just try it.
Yeah, and it's I love it because like I go in there, I don't know what I'm going to be playing. And it's kind of fun. And it makes it exciting. Like, I guess for like more classical players, like there's all the memorization, there's like the nerve-wracking, I can't mess up. Like these are the
Yeah.
notes I have to play. And you don't have that. So you go in there and it's fun and exciting
Yeah.
in that kind of way if you think about it. Like you don't know what's going to happen and it's going to be a good time.
But it is a skill that you do better with the more you do it, right? Your
Oh,
first,
definitely.
your improvisations can be basic to start out, and then the more you do it, the more you find that you can experiment and go places you hadn't even imagined.
Yeah, like you make me also think about the looping pedal, which you can just
Oh,
play with yourself. So you could do it at home and it's so fun and it sounds great too. So yeah, you can practice at home by yourself. Or actually like I run records, you
hmm.
can play with like the most amazing quartets.
Oh,
But
how much
and then you
fun!
just play with them. Like they make you want to play, so you just play with your recording.
Yeah, and who would have thought that that was practice, right? And yet it is. It's just so much
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that Abandon is your first solo album. Talk about how different that experience was than the recordings you've done before.
I think like one thing was that, like I've done like pieces before or like it's been a performance and then it's
Hmm.
recorded. But this was like very intentional and also like I've been playing these pieces like just at random gigs. Like I'll be somewhere and I'll play this song and I'm just like, I want to collect them all together. Um, and I actually want to really record them. And also for some of them, like I want to write it out a little bit more because I also like I compose themes and sometimes like themes that are meant specifically for improvisation. So it might be like you play through and then you come back and you take it apart. And so I think I wanted to put it all together and be like, these are the things I've been playing for these couple of years. But I also, really wanted to have like, um, you know, an actual like recording that was like really, really high quality. I mean, which sounds like, oh, okay, whatever. I mean, there's lots of ways to record, performances and that sort of thing. But I really wanted to be in the studio and work specifically with the mixer engineer that I had,
Yeah.
Michael Gorman. I had met him on an artist residency when I was at Banff, and he had recorded this like small ensemble piece that I had done there. And it sounded so different. And then he was able to do some like level changes that I wanted. And I was just like, oh, I love working with this person. I really want to do an album with him specifically. And so he happened to move to New York like right
Ah.
after. So I was so lucky. And then he came upstate. So he met the folks upstate that I play with, which was great. And then we actually got these out in 3 days. So I did two albums in 3 days, and it was like 6 hours a day playing straight, having lunch
Yeah.
in between, going out for some ice cream. But like really, it was also a heat wave, so it was like 96
Oh.
degrees out. We're supposed to record in one of the parts in a church because I wanted the resonance of that church. But they didn't have air conditioning. They're like, we suggest you do not come in here. So we ended up actually recording in like this barn where we work a lot with the trio and some of my recording, but then also in my own living room, which I have this like secret plan that I'd love to make it into a salon so we can have
Ooh.
like more musicians. So after recording, the engineer said that actually the space was really good for sound. It made me excited.
Yeah, I can understand
Yeah.
that.
So I guess they came about like through this amazing person that I could work with, having like a set of days that I knew I had these hours, and so I was going to like really use those hours well, and plan them out and have the people come in that needed to come in, so that we'd have something coming out.
Yeah, well, what an exciting project. I know that there's something that is very um, fulfilling about doing a solo album and something particularly satisfying about doing one that is you and your music. And it's so personal. Not that this compares with your album because it's a whole different thing, but I did a solo album myself of my own arrangements of Christmas music, and they're pretty, intense arrangements, a lot of them, and they're hard to play. And, it's always great when you arrange something that you have trouble playing yourself. However, I I didn't know when I started it that it was going to feel so much like me that I almost felt a little bit shy or vulnerable about it. And it's very different, isn't it, when it's all you?
You're right. I mean, I think both for the solo and the trio albums, it was very much wanting people to hear my sound because I guess I never knew where I belonged. I would ask people like mentors,
Oh.
like, what is my sound? What is this? Is this indie? Is this like, is it classical? Is it jazz? What is it? They're like, I don't know. It's whatever you're playing at the time, kind of, because like it shifts and changes a bit. And also it's a hybrid of all of them. So yeah, it's what I sound like. And with the trio too, like we do a lot of open improv in that one. I think we have one that I had composed a theme for, and the rest is open improv, but it's very much our sound and the different types of things that we do. And so we wanted to show that range of sound that we do make. So yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about your trio, because I know you have some cool stuff coming up with the trio too.
That's right. So we do have an album coming out also with Rupa Records, which it was fantastic, actually. I just want to mention them a bit because for artists, they let you keep your masters. That's a huge thing. I
You're
know. That was
right.
like the question I asked. I was like, what about the masters? And they're run by artists themselves, musicians themselves, so they know all the gamut of the things that you run into. So it's just like it's been wonderful working with them, and they're really all about like whatever you want to put out for your sound, that's what we're going to do, right? Like, so you have all this artistic control too. And so for Signal, which is the album that the trio is doing, the Rock City Falls Trio, I'm working with Adam Forman, who I mentioned before, the percussionist, and also Jason Handren, who is amazing on the bass. He does amazing kind of extended technique on the bass. And it's interesting that we all kind of met in, me and Adam I had mentioned, but then with Jason, when we were talking to him, I was like, well, this is what we do. We do like improv with indie rock mixed with jazz and like it's astral, you know? And he's like, that's what I do.
And you're thinking, now, wait a second, how can there be somebody else that does this weird thing I can't even describe, right?
Exactly. And then we played the first time, it was like, that's it. And then we've been playing for a while now. And then this really also came out from like, we should be putting out our sound, like that we have been creating mostly for live performance. Like we do concert live performance, but we hadn't put out like an album yet. So this was really important for us also to get our sound together. But also really again feeling that range of sound. Like we want it because we do different types of things that are more experimental, a little more groove oriented, or also working with like composed elements. So kind of that whole range.
Well, it's so exciting to think that, you've got collaborators who work with you in this same way. And do you find often when you start something, especially you talked about open improv, which I'm I want to explain in case people don't know, that's like you're not really starting with a theme. You're not starting with an idea. You're just kind of diving in and doing it, right? And so to have all three of you essentially composing, I hate to put that word in there, I just didn't have another one right now, but creating this thing as it happens. I mean, that's a pretty amazing thing to be part of.
Yeah. No, I think like when it's a really, really good improv, like after you finish, you're like, yeah, like you really feel it and it's very exciting. And when it's happening, I mean, I just want to encourage people to try it because I just feel not, I mean, it's a lot of fun, but it's also like, you can put in like your emotions, your thoughts, like everything can go in there. And I think it's like an interesting, like an experience in itself. Like
Yeah.
it's like being very, very present, which you don't get a lot of times in your life to be able to be like that. And so like there's that openness, the presence, and like the emotion, the feeling. I mean, it's a really intense experience, and I hope that people will give it a go.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the way you talked about that because the the presence and the focus I think is such a part of it. And when we're um, working so hard at replicating what's printed on a page. That's a different kind of focus, and it's certainly intense, and it certainly takes a lot of being in the moment to keep driving the flow where you know it needs to go. But all the extra sensory awareness, I think, that comes into play when somebody else is doing something that they hadn't thought of a second ago, let alone you predicting, and to be able to react to that. It's a different kind of awareness.
And I like to think of it as like a conversation too, in a way,
Mm.
because like they're coming with something and then that makes you want to come back with something. And so again, it's like the listening, but then it's the back and forth, knowing when you pull out a little bit and not overplay.
Hmm.
And just like appreciating what the other person's doing too, that makes it really special. And
Yeah.
it's also the audience, I think, like it's like the whole surroundings is like changing the way that you're gonna play something. Because I'm never gonna play something the same twice, obviously, but then also just the feeling that you get when you're in a specific space, that's something as well too.
Yeah. And it's you're right to bring the audience into it because they are definitely a factor. But tell me, describe for somebody who's never done this kind of thing, describe what a rehearsal might be like. Because obviously you're not just making it up for the first time, although that sometimes does happen too, I'm sure, but on the stage in front of people. But, it's like, well, we have this performance we're going to be doing. We need to have an idea of what we're doing. So what is a rehearsal like?
Okay, so like I guess we're gonna have a performance coming up,
There you
which I'm
go.
nervous. And also we're gonna be at, I'm excited, like a couple of festivals in the fall. So like what we're gonna do is like we will probably just warm up. We might do an open improv to like warm up. And then be like, oh, what do you want to start with? And I'll be like, oh, rain. And so like we know generally like the theme is
Hmm.
definitely inside me. And like with the trio, I play it differently. I mean, we've played it differently with, if it's just Adam or if it's just me or whatever. But we know we like to start off with the bass. I love the way Jason plays. So like whenever it's possible, like to give like Adam or Jason like a solo to start, it's lucky for me to be able to listen to it. So I'm like,
Hmm.
gonna listen to it. So Jason actually starts that off and it's like, oh, love it. And then Adam comes in. I know I'm going to come in last for that one, or I might come in with Adam or something. But like Jason starts and that's kind of our plan. We're like Jason's starting, and then the feel happens because like he sets the feel, and then you kind of come in.
Hmm.
And then maybe we'll be like, oh, we should do an open one that's like maybe this other one that had like more of a groove before.
Hmm.
And then maybe Adam starts. I love it. And then he'll start and we'll be like, yeah. And then we kind of go into it and then we go into the groove that we know we kind of want to go into. But sometimes like if it's a a larger project that takes several months to create, that'll be conversations about like, why are we even playing this? What is it going to be a theme about? Those projects are more elaborate, and sometimes we're collaborating with people, and sometimes we're workshopping it with audiences to input into it as well. So at those times, like sometimes I'll come up with themes for the different parts, or if there's different parts, or sometimes like we'll do a theme and then like an open and then a theme. It depends. It's like agreements that are made with the collaborators, and how you're going to play it. And sometimes the theme, like I play it through, or we all play it through, and then we break it apart, and then it comes back. Or, we kind of make like agreements on what we're going to do as a sketch. It's like a rough
Yeah.
sketch of what's going to happen. Maybe we're like, then we know it'll get intense and then it'll fade, or we'll just like stop playing, or and then we'll come back and then it fades. So it's not like written out, but like we have an idea, like a sketch and a roadmap of like how generally it'll happen, and it might not happen like that, because as you're doing it and you're in it, like it becomes what it becomes, and it's better that way. So
Yeah. Well, and sometimes I, you can. I've had this even in, regular traditional, like from the page kind of playing in a group where all of a sudden you can sense that one person has an idea that's different from what you usually did. And you know that everybody else is picking up on it and it's going to be okay to try it that way. And that's where the beauty of live performance happens, whether it's, in its own little way. That's an improv too, right? It's like, oh, wait, we're going to try this. What if we did it this way? And doing it unrehearsed in front of an audience is a little bit like, tightrope without a net thing, but it's exhilarating when you try it and when it works.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you this because this is one of the things that I think it fascinates us all as harpists. So what brought you to the harp to start with? What's your
So
harp story?
yeah, my harp story is like, well, I played the piano for the longest time. And then it was COVID. So it wasn't long ago that I learned the harp. So it was COVID, and I heard over the internet, on like streaming, I think it was Facebook
Mm-hmm.
streaming. I heard a harpist from like the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And like she had been playing for hospitals. But
Okay.
because she couldn't actually go to the hospital streamed her and was like, "Oh, let's just open it up to everyone."
Yeah.
So, so I was listening to it. I was like, "Oh, what is this sound?" Harp sound. I was like, I want to make this sound. And so I was looking up, like, I bought a harp. Like, I was moving at the same time, and it was like really snowy, and it was like 3 feet of snow when we moved, and the harp met us there. But I remember I bought it from in California, and it
Mhm.
like flew to me in New York. Um, and then, but it was like it was like a 36
Okay.
string lever
Mhm.
harp. But then I started playing. I was like immediately, I was like, oh, I get this. Like, it's like, because coming from piano, it was just like, yes. And like, immediately I was like playing with, but then I was talking to because I live near Skidmore, some Skidmore
Mhm.
professors, and they were like, well, like, I think we were talking about pentatonic scales because that's like a
Oh,
thing, right? Like,
right, right.
and then they're like, there's this amazing professor. And that's how I met Elizabeth Huntley. And then we immediately, like, I started playing with her, and like, she's so generous, and like, and I started playing the big harp. And like the muted time, like I plucked the first string, it was just like that sound,
Sound.
like, and fell in love with it immediately. And it was just like practicing for hours a day type of thing until my hands hurt. And she's like, don't practice that much, which is probably not what a teacher tells people usually. But
Not
I think it was
usually,
crazy.
but good teachers like Elizabeth are going to watch out for you and make sure that you can
Ah,
play for your
yeah.
lifetime, not just for.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, oh, and because I hurt my hand because I played too much like one day. But then she's like, never play more than like 8 hours. But then I think like she really like I don't know, like the way that she taught me was like she understood that I was learning in a different way because I had already had like piano, and like then I was going somewhere else. And so like she taught me in a certain way that allowed me kind of a freedom of learning,
Hmm.
that made it, I guess, quicker for me
Okay.
to get to where I was going to go. And which was very open. And like I'd bring her stuff, and she'd be like, "You should not be learning this yet." Like, I'm like, but I think I kind of know how to play it. And then she'd be like, I'll show you really how you're going to play it, right? Like,
Right.
you
Well,
think you
it's
know how you're
it's
going to play
true that
it.
I know with somebody with a lot of musical background and particularly piano background, but I think you've got a lot of musical background. You come to the harp for the first time, your musical ability is like at a 10, and your technical ability is like at a 0. And so to get your technique up to the level so that you can play the music you want to play is really tough. And you clearly took the intensity route. It's like, okay, I'm just going to play and play and play until my technique will allow me to do what I want to do.
I think it was like, I want to learn that song. It was like,
Exactly. I
I'm going
know.
to finish that song. And my poor family, listening, son's just like, he's got all these songs memorized, like,
So
Like, how
what was the first big piece that you really wanted to do that pushed you that hard?
Yeah, it was the Toccata and Fugue, like the Bach Toccata and Fugue. I really wanted to
Hmm.
play it. And like I brought it in like 1 month in. She was like, "You should not be playing this right
No, that's right.
now." But like I think Bach, like I love Bach. So well, who doesn't? But like
Right.
so like I was trying to play like the Goldberg variations, but like from the Urtek version. And she's like, people have like changed this for the harp already. Like I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't want to put in the fingering, like she's like, you crazy. But then, like here's the actual harp version.
Right.
But I think like learning Bach, just being
Yeah.
obsessed with Bach also helped a lot with technique.
Oh, it would for sure.
Yeah. And like, and I still like I play the sing songs over and over, and my son is like, "When are you gonna finish that?" And I'm like, "Never,
We don't
never
finish.
gonna finish. Never gonna play it the way I really want to play it." But also, like and every time I play it, it's like my X finger exercise, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so I look at that. So it's not like I don't play like written music. I play it so much. Actually, that's what I practice. And then I go out. I don't really practice my improv. Like I sort of do sometimes when I get really tired. I'm like, I'm just gonna do improv now.
Mhm.
But like when I'm practicing, it's mostly actually the written music.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned this before though. It's the music that we hear and that we learn and that we study that gives us the material and the tools that we need to be able to improv. I mean, if we were just in a musical vacuum, our improv would be very different. But to have the technique, to have the background, to have the musical vocabulary, to be able to, to give our minds and our fingers the possibilities in there, that's what I think is really important.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, always on my stand there's Bach. But like also like then, you know, I do find improv as a release. So I often end with like doing improv or like
Mhm.
composing stuff or that's kind of my release. And like just for daily living, that's my release too.
Yeah.
When I like I'll play with some folks, at the end of the week and it'll just be like
Yeah. Did you do improv on the piano?
I didn't. It was interesting because now I do. So it was like after the harp, I was like, hmm. And I was composing on the harp, and then now I do both the piano and the harp. So like, and I do piano, then I bring it to the harp. Um, I don't really like compose specifically for the piano. Um,
You found your voice. That's it. You just found exactly the way you needed to have your voice heard in the world.
I just love the harp. I think it's
Mhm.
such a special sound and like being able to have electronics on it, like it just expands the vocabulary and
Yeah.
possibility for it. But I love to pluck things. I don't know if it's the same with you, but I'm like, I love the feel of like moving my fingers on the strings. Like it just like makes me happy and like I'm like I
Well,
just love
there's
playing stuff.
so much you can do. There's this infinite variety of ways you can put your finger on the string and the way you can pull the string and how you connect with it and what comes out. And it's a feast for the imagination, I think. You just get in there and see what comes out.
Yeah, and there's that like feeling of like the finger on the
Hmm.
strings, like and what comes out. Like it's so interesting, like just that in itself. Like um I don't know, I just love that, when you're doing that, like suddenly the sound of these different types of sounds emerges. It's from your head to your hands to the strings and then the sound.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, I just love
It's a
it.
great way of putting it. So, well, this has been fabulous, but I do need to get to some of the really important things. So, um, I do have the link to your website so that people can find out more about you and what's going on.
Okay.
But tell us where they should go to really find out more about your music and about your performances coming up, particularly with the Rock City Trio, because I know you've got some festival stuff coming up very soon.
Oh, great. Yes, I'm excited about it. We're going to be part of the Impact Topos Festival with Improv Spaces and, of course, Rock City Falls Trio. But we're also able to invite Sundogs, which is a local act here as well, to be part of that. So we're really excited. And then also the next day, we kind of like partnered with them and also the Troy Savings Bank Music Hall, which is this lovely hall with great sound. And so
Mm.
we're going to take over the hall and their new Capital Region music hub that they built. It's like this
Ooh.
new hub with a new stage too. So there'll be two stages, and we'll have the Improv Spaces Music Festival, which is the nonprofit that I work on with Adam. So that'll be really exciting. So we'll be playing with that too with Carlin Ma, who is a photographer, videographer. But again, that piece is going to be really about, the earth and thinking about climate change and different things that are happening. But if you want to learn more about what's going to happen, you can go to my website, which is
Okay.
alexchangmusic.com.
Mhm.
And I put things on there, or you could go to my Instagram, Alexa
Yeah.
Chang 2000, and also Rock City Falls Trio has an Instagram as well. So
And
those
we'll
are
put all
probably,
those links. Yeah, we'll put all those links in the show
oh,
notes so that
okay.
everybody can find them and can find you easily. And particularly now that you have your just finally released album Abandon and they can get to that. It's so exciting. Congratulations. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Thank you
So,
so much.
yeah, yeah. Well, if you could just think
Mhm.
about one piece of advice that, I mean, you've given so many pieces of advice already about improv, but what would you say to somebody who's feeling inspired by the information you've shared today and they want to just take that next step? What would you tell them?
Well, I would tell them that they should just go out and ask somebody, like if they meet a musician that they like the
Mhm.
sound of and like they get along with it, just ask them if you want to jam. I do that all the time. We should jam. And then they're like, yes. And then you do it and it's great. And you might find your partner, your creative partner for the next period of your life that way too. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's great advice. I know that there are going to be a lot of people who are saying, "Well, what do you mean just jam?" But that's a conversation for another day. And I think we kind of got into that today a little bit too. So I think that's fine. But it's just about playing what you've already got inside you.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, this has been so great. It's been terrific to chat with you. So, thank you so much for agreeing to talk with me today. And we'll put all those links in the show notes so everybody can find your music. And I'm excited for them to give Abandon a listen.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wasn't that an amazing conversation? And wasn't I right that she just radiates harp happiness? Everything about her just speaks to harp happiness, and I love that. Now, I have included all the links you need to find out more about Alex and her music and where she's playing. You'll find them in the show notes for today's episode, so you can look for her website, then a link directly to the music that she has put out there, including this Abandoned CD. That's her Bandcamp link, and then a couple of links to festivals where Alex is going to be playing with the Rock City Falls Trio. Both of those are in early September, and in upstate New York. So you have time to think about them and do what you like. But do check out her music, check out her website, and I hope that you were as inspired as I was by her love of the harp and just the way she just embraced everything that she could about our favorite instrument. So for me, that was the most fun part of our conversation, just being able to share the harp happiness with her. So that's really, really fun. Now, I did promise to share one of the selections from her CD with you, and that's what I'm going to leave you with today. So let me, before I play that, remind you about what we have coming up next week on the podcast. Something much lighter. I'm going to be sharing some suggestions for your summer reading list. So that's on next week's podcast, and I think you'll enjoy that. Just some interesting books that might give you some more inspiration for the harp or for music or all different kinds of things. So summer reading list on next week's podcast. And of course, in the meantime, until I talk to you then, remember that every day is a day you can add more harp happiness to the universe, to your world, and to your spirit. And all you have to do is play. So thanks so much for listening. And now I'd like you to stick around and listen to the track that I asked Alex to recommend from Abandon. And you will have heard her reference this track any number of times in our interview. This is Rain. So this is Alex Chang playing Rain from her Abandon CD.